Cool. All right, we are good.
Thank you, Matthew. I am Nicole. I am the Chief Development Officer of Meg Academy, and I want to welcome you back to our Zoom chats, which I just said today, Brian coined a new term. We're going to start calling it a Zoomcast because it was a hybrid of like a podcast, but that's interactive. So welcome back. We started these back in March when the pandemic first started, and the purpose of these was to really support our public through this unprecedented time. And we really wanted to be a resource for everybody for cutting edge information. As things were changing so rapidly, we wanted to be as current and relevant as we possibly could. And that continues to be the purpose as people are starting to go back to more normal numbers, as normal as can be right now. And that's going to continue to be our purpose as we go to a more once a month format. So today's topic is very relevant. It's called Restructuring Your Business Model to Thrive Post-Pandemic. And we have an excellent guest panelist today. So I want to introduce them first. First off, we have Brian Gallagher, who is the founder of Meg Business Management. We have Dimi Kostopoulos, who is the founder of Hands-On Diagnostics. Jason Waz, who is the owner of Competitive Edge Performance and founder of New PT Technologies. And finally, we have Mark Kellenen, who is the Director of Clinical Development for Lightforce Medical. So as Brian mentioned earlier, a lot of brain power on this panel today. We are super excited to hear from each one of you about your experiences and share your knowledge. A couple of the things that we are going to cover today are why insurance-based healthcare is not a viable model anymore in this environment. We're going to, number two, talk about the top market differentiators in PT private practice. And we're going to talk about cash-based services that you can provide to create different income verticals in your practice. A couple of links that we're going to put up, Matthew's going to put up there. We created a resource guide in partnership with our guest panelists for restructuring post-pandemic. It is a wealth of information, guys. Please go to that link and register to get that ebook. We put a lot of time, energy, and effort into that, so we hope you enjoy it. We also want to make sure that you have the link for contacting us. If you have specific questions that you want to talk a little bit more about, either myself or Brian, please feel free to reach out to us. So we have the contact us form as well going up there. And just one other thing I want to make mention of, we have been working really, really hard. And again, with this ever-changing environment, rules and regulations and laws have been changing. So we've been working really hard on our compliance program that we are launching in August. So if you want to learn more about that particular program, I also want to put up that link as well. So you have a lot of different things to look into. With that being said, I want to first focus our attention onto Brian over here. And I want you to kind of kick things off and tell us why we're even having this discussion right now. What have you been learning from all of our clients and that we are working with right now? What are some of the struggles that you're hearing about from them in this current environment?
All right, good. Well, Nicole, thank you so much. And thanks for having another live Zoomcast. This is awesome. And honestly, this is a powerhouse group here. So for all of you listening, I'm going to ask you to really, really ask your questions. Do not hesitate. Do not sit on your hands. Get as much data from these guys, from these gentlemen, from these professionals that you absolutely can. They are here for you. And that's why we put this together. And trust me, there's hours of preparation that go into these things, such as like picking a background like this. So since I am from Florida, I would prefer to be in my element. And for those of you guys who do know Meg Business Management, we are a very uptone, fun, and high energy kind of group. So I'm going to be quick here, and I'm going to share with you what I think we need to talk about to kick this off right and kick it off properly, so that you can get the most out of what these gentlemen, these professionals, are going to share with you today. First of all, let's think about Chipotle. I want everyone to think about your physical therapy practice like it's a Chipotle. Prior to the pandemic, you opened up a 2,500 square foot Chipotle. You put 20 tables in there. You're open 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. Although Chipotle is probably 7 days a week, especially down in Florida. And so let's just say 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, 20 tables. You turn those tables over 4 times an hour. You built your entire performa buying into that franchise and opening up that Chipotle based on that calculation, based on the performance of that physical environment. Now, in physical therapy, we call that a production center formula, something we created in Meg Academy, something we created, and we are able to abandon the old rule of, hey, for every 1,000 square feet you are in size, you should do 100 visits a week. That's what everybody else chatters about all throughout the APTA and all around and all the conferences I hear too, but it doesn't really take into account admin space and blah, 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 blah. So my point in starting this live Zoom chat is it's all skewed. It's all off. None of that makes sense. That's why this is the absolute best time in the world to open up a physical therapy practice, because you can open up a physical therapy practice scaled appropriately, the environment, the operating expenses, the performa, based on the scheduling, spacing, distancing, and re-engineering that everybody else is trying to catch up with. But if I still own that 2,500 square foot space and I still have the same 8 tables and I have 5 therapists, but now I can't see 2 patients an hour. Now I can't have my assistants and support staff working with me like I did before because I have to social distance. Now I have additional cost in re-engineering with plexiglass and PPE equipment and stuff like that. All of this wasn't budgeted. None of this was factored in here. And that's why each one of these gentlemen here, each one of these highly trained professionals who have been helping PT owners just like you across the nation are here to say to you, you don't have to be the effect of that. You do not have to be the effect of that. It's your choice. If you want to sit back and say, I'm Blockbuster and, you know, I hate the fact that Netflix is over here and people are mailing in things and they're streaming stuff. But the fact of the matter is I just love my business model. Don't fall in love with your car. Your car is a vehicle that takes you from where you want to go to where you are to where you want to go. Your practice should be doing the same for your dreams, for your hopes, for your ideal scene, for your staff, for your patients, for your public, for your referral sources. And what we're going to cover today is how, if you're willing to look, you're actually willing to open up that filing cabinet in your mind and insert some new thoughts and ideas, you're going to be able to calculate future. Look at the clock shows up.
I know.
I go, that's pretty cool. It's almost like I'm the father time or something here.
Oh boy.
So I don't need another title. It's going to allow you to operate at a higher level moving forward post-pandemically if you're willing to change your mind, if you're willing to consider for a moment that there's so much more out there than what you may have thought of prior to the pandemic. And I'm going to end with this because these guys these are the solution makers. I'm going to let them roll out solutions because you've heard me say this 1,000 times if you listen to my podcast. Moving forward in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, you have to find a way. You have to find a way on how to bring 20% of your gross revenue in through cash-based services. You just do. You have to. You cannot keep sitting here and letting these insurance companies take you down from 92 a visit to 82 a visit to 72 a visit, or to upstate New York where people are surviving on $58 a visit. And I could be a darn massage therapist with several weeks of training, get a certificate and go charge $85 a session. And you're a doctor of physical therapy. Demi knows this better than anybody on this panel. I would gather because of where he is in the country and because he has worked for so long with people all throughout the nation. But when you come from that New York City area like Demi, he's going to tell you, I saw the writing on the wall a decade ago. He was the Blockbuster who sold his franchise before everybody else. So I'm going to end it with that because I want you to get into the solutions. But the problem that I just laid out is not going to go away. It's what you choose to do about it. It's what you're willing to look at. And I hope you guys appreciate my enthusiasm. I like to be like quick and fast and make it happen. But really, answers take time. Solutions take effort. And most importantly, your success takes your investment of time and money and the power players around you if you're really going to live a successful life. And I'll leave you with that.
Yeah, I think that's great, Brian, and that's a great introduction. And since you mentioned Demi, can you please, why don't you kick us off and tell us a little bit about yourself and your company?
Sure. First of all, great job, guys, and thank you so much for all you do, Brian and Nicole. I mean, you've been a great help for the profession during this very difficult time. So thank you for everything that you are doing. I'm a physical therapist for 33 years. I graduated in 1987. So That tells you a little bit about my age. I opened my first physical therapy private practice in 1992 in Manhattan, New York City. So I've been through the ups and the downs, and I have been from a situation of one office to a situation of 13 physical therapy offices, doing more than 3,000 visits a week, and selling practices, consolidating practices, and finally solidifying to a very workable future model for the physical therapy profession. Not just that in private practice, but in general for the profession. So I'm the co-founder of the Hands-On organization. Hands-On Companies is a consortium of companies that span from the area of physical therapy, hands-on physical therapy, to the area of local diagnostics, hands-on EMG testing, to the area of education, hands-on seminars, and to the area of a national franchise, hands-on diagnostics, where we help physical therapists create and establish HADS, hands-on diagnostics, approved diagnostic centers, as a solution, not only to their finances, but as a solution of survival now and expansion tomorrow in the physical therapy private practice space.
Okay, very good. That's a good introduction. So you talked a little bit about the future of physical therapy. Why do we have to think differently now about physical therapy than we did maybe, 8 months ago?
Sure. Look, I'm gonna just share with you this a little slide here, if I manage it. So the pandemic hit, right? So let's take some practices who were making $100,000 a month, a week, a day, a year. I don't care. Let's say $100,000. So the pandemic hit, some practices went from X amount to zero, or from X amount to 20% of X. All right. So if these practices decide, because it's always a decision, whether you do something or you don't do something, it's always a decision. If they decide to do nothing about it and be, as Brian said before, the effect of the environment, they're going to have a very slow path to recovery if they recover. But if they implement, if they take action and they implement specific strategies that can really help them create change right now, their path will be much more accelerated, and not only they will do very well, but they will do much better than even before. Our projection is that for the organizations and the practices that are associated with our HADS, hands-on diagnostics organization, we're looking at performance of 180% of the pre-COVID numbers. And I'll have the opportunity to talk to you how these people, these are real examples. I'll show you how these people are able to increase tremendously, not only their annual revenues by adding diagnostics in their practice, but increase their per visit reimbursement.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit more about how that works? So I am the typical, outpatient orthopedic clinic. I have 3 therapists, front desk person. How can I implement your technologies in your training and make sure my bottom line improves? And not only my bottom line, but how am I able to help more people?
Okay, so look, first of all, let's look at this. The viability of a profession is determined by both its actual as well as its perceived value to the society. Okay, somebody will buy your product, your service, because they will consider it valuable, right? So let's look at the current model of physical therapy. Is a model where we do an initial eval, we do a treatment plan, intervention, and so on and so forth until we end care with that patient. So the effectiveness of our treatment, and therefore our actual and perceived value perhaps depends on what results, what outcomes we create with our patients. Following the traditional model of physical therapy, our outcomes are based on the evaluative tools we have to evaluate our patients. Let's say we do special tests for different things. But look at the sensitivities of these special tests. You can have a 23% sensitivity on a Tinel sign for a carpal tunnel syndrome. Well, let me ask you something. If a coronavirus test had a 23% sensitivity, would you want to have that test? In other words, 23% sensitivity means that the remaining, which is 77%, you will get a false negative result. So pretty amazing. So what we do is we follow a diagnostics approach where we incorporate diagnostic testing at some point in the physical therapy patient experience, okay? So this is a new paradigm for physical therapy that has a much, much greater sensitivity and specificity. So we are able to identify the true problem that the patient has. So this is your clinical justification to incorporate in the patient experience diagnostics. Your financial justification, here you go. Why the profit margins for physical therapy are horrific. Well, look, one of the reasons is because the universe of PT codes, CPT codes that we have in physical therapy is very limited. No matter what manual therapy approach you do, you're going to bill 97140. Right? I have hands-on seminars. We have a bunch of courses. Please come and buy our courses. Would love that. But you know what? At the end of the day, you're going to bill the same code, 97140. No matter what exercises, therapeutic exercises you're going to have your patients do, you're going to end up billing the code 97110. So what happens is with diagnostics, when we bring diagnostics in the practice, you are able to bill CPT codes that are outside of the regular traditional physical therapy spectrum. And these diagnostic codes pay 3 to 10 times more than a regular CPT code. So here is your numbers.
Yeah, and I mean, it expands your reach for who you can help, because for people who are seeking this, diagnostic services, you're able to accommodate those people as well. Brian, you have a question.
I'm like, it's like school time. That's the only way you're going to, so please
Brian.
pick on me. I'm just going to make one comment for those that are listening. Dimmy's been at this for a long time. And what he's really pointing out to you, for many of you who are hearing this for the very first time, it's the same thing we train when we try to get you to up your game as a successful practice owner. It's not what you're doing that is the error, or that is the problem, or that's the slippery slope keeping you from being at the level of success that you want. It's what you don't know. It's actually what you don't know that's holding you back from living the life that you've envisioned for yourself as a practice owner. When I sat with him and he went through this, and I had several clients become clients of his, and we started sharing clients, it was amazing. The game changer for these practices, being able to expand their access to a whole new set of codes, a whole new set of services. And I'm a huge manual therapy proponent. And I thought to myself, if I can better diagnose my patients, what I love to do with my hands is just going to be that much more effective, because I am that much further down the road of understanding what the condition is of my patient, because I've done a greater, deeper dive in diagnostics before I ever laid my hands on the patient. So Dimi, I owe you so much credit, and just so much, I just flow you so much because of what you've done and the impact you've had on our profession, because by the hundreds, people are catching on to what your message has been for the last decade, and it's making a difference. It's truly making a difference. So I want to thank you for that. And the rest of you guys, let's hear what you guys have
Yes.
done too.
Yes. I want to jump over to Mark because, we talk a lot on the diagnostic side. Mark, can you share a little bit about the company that you're representing and a little bit about yourself as well?
Yeah, so I'm a kid compared to Demi. I've only been practicing since '99, so I'm a little newer to the game. But I'm a PT, DPT, OCS, owned a practice in the past out in Orange County, California. I joined the Light Force team about 3.5 years ago, and it's a Class 4 laser company. It's been around about 11 years. We're the only U.S. manufacturer of Class 4 lasers. So we're based in science and outcomes. We are CEO's a PhD. So we really believe in trying to put facts out there and generating great outcomes through science, research, and our products deliver. That's why we've been successful. There's approximately 1 million treatments a month being done around the globe with our equipment. So if it wasn't working, I don't think we would be around that sphere. So for those of you that don't know what lasers do, I made a couple extremely simple slides. They're not as complicated as
Please share.
As Demi, but some people hear laser and they start thinking about Star Trek and Star Wars. So basically, it's impacting mitochondrial tissue, and when it does that, it can have an impact on a number of different sort of cells. So you can treat acute and chronic pain with the laser via its interaction with the mitochondria. It's going to accelerate the inflammatory process. It's not going to block inflammation. It's just going to help the body get healed quicker, basically. So you're going to get better microcirculation, which is a good thing. It's active healing, basically. It's promoting an active healing phenomena. It can have impact on both CNS and PNS mechanisms, which is really cool. And with the Class 4 laser, the higher power stuff, you can actually drop people's pain in minutes. And that's the part that really has made us a valuable tool in the outpatient market. Demi's product is helping basically you get more specific, right? You're getting better at saying, here's exactly what tissue's involved. Here's your problem. Well, that's important for the clinician to understand, and it's important for you to be able to talk to the patient about that. But at the end of the day, what are they there for? That's all great, but get me better, And so if you have tools that can help people get better quicker, usually that's going to be a real win. So, one of the things we like to say around our water cooler is outcomes are going to generate income. And our product really helps generate great outcomes with your patients by getting them out of pain quicker, getting inflammation to come down, getting them moving, getting their plans of care accelerated. And that really fits in today's market because people are freaking out about leaving their living room, right? So they have to have a really good reason to come see you. And in most cases, it's because they're hurting. Hey, I can't handle sitting on my couch anymore. Maybe they got a taste of some help with telehealth, when things were really bad a few months ago. But now they're making value decisions. They're saying, hey, if I come see you at your facility, do you have the goods to get me feeling better quickly? Because hey, I don't want to be coming to your clinic every day. And the sooner you can get me feeling better, the sooner I can go retreat back into my safe, home. So I think that's an important thing to realize when you're thinking about your patients that are out there that maybe haven't returned. The word that I would really have you focus on is what's your value proposition? What are you offering to them? What is the reason you're telling them, please come take the risk of getting off your couch, getting in your car, coming into my clinic where you're going to be around other people, maybe getting infected. It's worth your time because fill in the blank. Okay, if you have a great answer for that, you're probably going to do okay with having them come in. And then the second piece is once you've figured out the messaging to get them to, basically dip their toe in the water again, the next piece is, can you actually deliver? Can you get them better? Can you get them feeling and improving in a direction where they feel like, hey, this was the value. And if you do that, then your practice is going to bounce back. And a piece of that very well may be you have to have more accurate diagnosis. But it might just be that you have to have a better way to get them out of pain and inflammation. And that's where, I'm a manual therapist by training as well. I'm a Maitland guy, and I took all sorts of manual classes. I love treating SI and low back stuff. But at the end of the day, manual therapy is macro. We're dealing with joint systems and gross tissue, whereas if you can infect and impact mitochondrial activity, you're talking about a very micro exchange with tissue. So if you put good macro with good micro together, it doesn't take a lot of rationale to realize, hey, maybe that's going to help people get better quicker.
Yeah.
because, you know, technology like this is going to do stuff that your hands can't do no matter how talented you are. So
Yeah.
just the last slide I have, and then I'll let you jump in here, Nicole. It's just, you know, whenever I talk to people, laser classically is not being reimbursed by third-party payers. And some people, as soon as they hear that, they take their hands off the steering wheel and go, okay, well, then I guess I can't do it. But just understand, insurance companies generally aren't out there to help us. You know, they're trying to figure out ways to scrape a margin off of the interaction and exchange between the clinician and the patient. And I just put this slide up here to let you know that there's a handful of very big organizations that are starting to endorse laser therapy, which is called photobiomodulation now. And that includes the American College of Physicians in 2017. We were the only modality that was recommended for chronic low back pain for conservative treatment. JOSPT in 2017 did a revision of their neck pathways, and they endorsed laser for 2 of those, as well in 2014 for treating heel pain and plantar fasciitis. There was a Cochrane review done in 2014 that said laser stood up better than other electromodalities for frozen shoulder. Adhesive capsulitis, we know that's a really tough one to treat. And then the International Association of Pain, you know, endorsed it in 2010 for treating myofascial stuff. So for those of you that want to sit on the evidence-based side of things, that's awesome. Understand that you're not going out on a branch. If you're going to start thinking about using a laser in your clinic, you're actually going to be falling into evidence-based practice. And, you know, what I would just say is that don't freak out about the fact that you can't put down a simple code. There are codes that you could utilize and go down that road if you wanted to. We generally don't recommend that because you're going to get a much better ROI on just charging cash for it. And, you know, we walk people through that all the time. But I mean, to Brian's point, when he said right out of the gate, you know, about sort of mindsets and thought processes that you might have, the classic owner clinician thinks the only way I'm going to make more money is if I see more patients. So they schedule more and more and more. And if you're getting bad NRPV, if you're getting bad net revenue per visit, that's not probably the right answer. It's work smarter, not harder. And so if you can get, you know, another $20, $30, $40 per visit from how you basically do your job and the applications of different technologies that you can apply, you can totally flip that equation around. And you can make it so that you'll be seeing maybe a patient or 2 less a day and be increasing your revenue by 10, 15% than what you were seeing before. So my take home for you guys would be work smarter, not harder. We all work hard enough, Lord knows.
Yes.
So, make sure that you're doing things that make sense, and that if, like what Brian was pointing out, if you can get 20% of your revenue to be coming from cash, you're going to be able to exhale, because we all know that the reimbursements are doing nothing but going south. They're going to continue to do that. And if that's what you're banking on, then, you know, good luck, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are all really good points, and thank you for sharing that. And I got to say, I think, you know, with the research supporting it, that's got to be another good way to market to your referral sources, to educate them on the benefits of these services as well, I would imagine.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, you mentioned something like laser, people are like, well, I've never heard of that, or, you know, what is that, you know, some newfangled thing? And you have to educate them a little bit, you know, and it certainly is nice when you can bring, you know, research into the discussion and endorsements from different credible organizations to say, hey, I'm not a quack, you know, I'm just trying to do what's newest and greatest. And this is cutting edge stuff. It's not something that everybody has. And it's a great differentiator for your practice if you have something that others can't offer.
Yeah.
So it's another,
We do have a question coming in
Nicole.
from Angela. And let me just ask this question real quick to Mark. She's asking, what is a fair charge for the service? What are people asking?
It varies, you know, across the country. I would say it's in the range between $40 and $75 a treatment. If you're in Manhattan, where Dean used to have a practice, you know, you're going to be looking at $75, $80 a treatment. If you're in a rural setting, maybe, you know, Visalia, California, where there's a farm community, lower income, lots of, Medicaid type patients, you're probably gonna have to scale that down a little bit. But, you know, one of the blind spots that we see regularly is that people think, oh gosh, I have this patient population that's income level is here, therefore there's no way they'll do it. And all I would tell you is that's a huge blind spot, because pain is a very personal thing with patients, and how they view it, the significance they put on getting out of pain is very individual. And the analogy I give people is like, if you had 3 patients that showed up to your clinic that made the exact same amount of money, would they have the same car? Probably not, you know, because they all have a different value on what they put on their car. Pain is the same way. You don't know what their family history is. They might be, you know, people that have dealt with abuse issues, or, you know, had a relative that was an opioid, you know, victim or something. And they might be like, I'll do anything not to take a pill or to take some sort of medicine to get me out of this pain. And then you bring in a non-invasive thing like a laser that can drop their pain by 50% in a couple minutes, and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I don't care how much that costs, I need that because that's the best I felt in the last 24 hours, and I didn't have to take a pill. So what we recommend is just try to give the best advice to your patient, educate them, demonstrate it, let them see what it can do, and then let them make the decision. And you'll be shocked on the decisions that will be made by some of those patients that you would otherwise think maybe they wouldn't.
And just a follow-up question for Angela, a typical treatment session lengthwise, I'm imagining it's going to take, specific to each patient, but what is a typical treatment session?
Yeah, that comes down to a dosing question, and the very short answer is it depends on the area you're going to treat.
Sure.
But having more power allows you to do treatments quicker. So the short answer is, I would say, if you wanted to say a ballpark, it's about the time of an ultrasound. By the time you talk to the patient, set it up, treat it, check afterwards, you're probably going to be in the 5 to 8 minute range. But if you're dealing with like a finger, the treatment could take 45 seconds. If you're treating, say, a low back or something that's maybe more complicated, it could be 10 to 12 minutes. It just depends. There's a whole bunch of variables. But I would say just think about the time of an ultrasound generally.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
That's great.
Brian, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I wanted just to share, one of the positions that we take here at Meg Academy, Meg Business Management, is that we try to become like the Consumer Reports for physical therapists. We kind of take that beingness on. We want people to ask whatever questions, and if we don't know the answers, we're going to find the answers for them. We have a private Facebook mastermind group where all of our clients around the country can all chat, and just it ups the game for everybody. So I want to wear that hat just for a second with you, Mark, because I'm going to ask some of the questions that I asked you when we first met. In traveling to over 400 offices across the country, here's some things, and we're just going to rapid fire. We're going to pretend like we're like on, the evening news, and we're going to run up against a hard stop, and I'm down to 15 seconds. And we're supposed to have some intelligent conversation
Jason's
in
like,
15 seconds. Jason's like, okay, I'm getting ready for what Brian's going to throw my way. So
I see the spinning, the little lollipop, so I'm making sure I'm still on.
Okay, good. See what you can do. So here's my questions, Mark, and we're just going to rapid fire and just give some general answers, because a lot of people are probably thinking it, but they're not typing it. I've been in clinics in the past 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 3 years ago. They've had laser. My patients said they never really felt anything, couldn't tell a difference. When I posed that to you, you had a really good answer for that, because lasers today are not lasers of yesterday. What do you have to say about that? 10 seconds.
Different classes of lasers. The old classic first laser to hit the market in the 80s was a class 3 cold laser. Class 4 laser is over a half a watt of power. It has enough power density you feel warmth on the skin. So when you're applying it to a patient, they're actually going to feel warmth. But the real take home is that higher power, that warmth that they're getting also can be correlated with blocking pain from some of those sensory nerves, which will change their subjective complaint very quickly. So it's a very different animal. The other one would just deal with inflammation. So they might come back the next day and go, yeah, I think it helped a little bit. This product, in a lot of cases, you're going to finish that treatment after 5 minutes and they're going to notice the difference.
Fantastic. Okay. One more, couple more, really quick. So
I want to add a comment that James said, who's giving a positive feedback for Mark.
I'm so sorry. This
He's
is your
so
show,
happy.
By all means. No, that was excellent feedback.
Okay. No, I just wanted to say that, he said that the orientation process was great and you went through it. The staff was onboarded, which I think is a huge part of if you're going to have something, you have to know how to use it. It's one thing to, you always use the analogy, Brian, if you give somebody my 12-year-old daughter, a set of keys, you say, okay, go drive the car. What good is that? She doesn't know how to use it. So that onboarding, which we do at Meg Academy as well, we're very sticklers for that. So that is amazing that kind of comes with, that good onboarding process comes with this particular modality.
Yeah.
So
most people have no idea how the laser works or how to use it. They just want to turn it on and wave it around and hope it works. So we really make sure that people understand the general basics of the science and the dosing, so that when they're applying it, they're using their brain a little bit and putting the treatments together that actually, make sense from the literature. And when they do that, the outcomes are very consistent.
Yeah.
That's
so
excellent.
James, thank you for sharing. Sorry. Go ahead, Brian. Go rapid fire.
And James, I'm sorry. I tend to leap when I shouldn't leap, and I tend to stop when I shouldn't stop. So I apologize for treading on your question. Yeah. Nicole is in control, as everybody can obviously see here. So two things, from Demi and from you, both of you, what I was really impressed with, and for those of you listening, you heard me say before, it's what you don't know that holds you back from being successful. Well, let me also share with you this. In all of my years, 15, 16 plus years of training people around the country. Teaching is different than training. Teaching is giving somebody a bunch of bright ideas and hoping that you can do something with it. Training is, I'm going to take your skill set from here, and I'm going to, when I'm done with you, you're going to have a higher level of abilities, of application of therapeutic abilities. You're going to be able to apply them at a much higher level. I was so impressed with both of these guys, and Jason as well, and he'll tell you about his side of this as well, that you put so much at no extra charge necessarily for the clients who sign in and come in with you to train them. Not just give them a book, a binder, a PowerPoint, here's how it works, here's what you got to talk about, but literally we're going to walk you through this process so that when you're using this with your staff, both of you were very adamant that they are as knowledgeable and as comfortable with using these cash-based modalities that they could actually speak on your behalf on it when they have it in their clinic. And I just can't stress that enough. And I think it's worth noting that for those of you listening, when you go through these channels and we connect you to these guys, should you be interested, you're not, here's the thing. When you do things and you get into areas of uncertainty, the human nature is for you to go back to what you were last doing well. That's why when I run into physical therapists and the owners are running around treating patients 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, and they're treating, I'm like, why aren't you looking at QuickBooks? Why aren't you running your metrics? Why aren't you building a financial plan, a pro forma? Why? Because they don't know the business strat planning. They don't know the marketing annual programming and the 2-month marketing campaigns. So in those areas of uncertainty, you'll backpedal into the things that you last did well. That's why Con Ed was something that was kind of laughable to me in early beginning. People go to a Con Ed course. How many of you have gone to a Con Ed course, come back, take a binder, put it on the shelf, you never actually change the way you treat? That's not going to happen here. And that's the point I'm trying to make is I know a lot of people talk laser and they sling it around and I don't think they really understand it. I don't think they really understand how impactful that can be. And surely on the diagnostic side of things, because a lot of people are like, what? I didn't even know we could do that. I get that all the time. And I'm like, you have to walk forward and make some new footprints in the sand if you're going to be that new business. So I'll end there and let's head on to Jason.
I was going to say, I'm going to transition to Jason with this confession. When I first learned about the newbie, I was like, oh, E-stim? I'm a physical therapist, I've been a physical therapist. I'm like, oh, what is E-stim? It is not that. After working with, I can't tell you how many clients that are both Mega Academy clients and newbie, clients that have been delivering this service. I can't tell you the overwhelming amount of success that I hear that they have had since implementing this type of service. So Jason, please introduce yourself and
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about the newbie.
Well, thank you. Well, first and foremost, I think your audience will understand that I am a Meg client and a Meg disciple based on some of the verbiage that I use. But what we're all talking about is adding a differentiator to our practice in order to A, improve outcomes, and B, ultimately improve our financial success, which, as Brian talks about all the time, when it comes to financial success and hiring people, it's just math, right? You have to have the income in order to kind of do the output. So, but I am a PT. I'm a private practice owner in Florida, and I'm the founder of New PT, which is a company that I formed about 3 years ago in order to educate physical therapists on how they can bring technology into their practice as a game changer. And Brian, you'll probably remember this. When I first met you about 3 years ago, one of our first meetings we had, I was in the middle of rebranding my practice, and I told you I wanted to take the words physical therapy out of my name. And you kind of like stepped back and I said, well, my perception is I just don't feel like the general public sees a ton of value in physical therapy just based on a bad experience they've had over the past, which is why a lot of us go into private practice, right? And I'll never forget what you told me. You said, like you always say, physical therapy is the best profession in the world, right? You are a physical therapist. Do not take physical therapy out of your name. Change the way the public perceives physical therapy. Change the way people think about physical therapy. So that's really what stimulated me to form New PT Tech. And because I wanted to take that and educate as many people as humanly possible based on the amazing success that I've seen with the newbie device, which we don't have enough time to go into the specifics about the newbie, but it's a proprietary pulse direct current electrical stim machine that just works. It produces unbelievable outcomes right away. It turns our patients into what we call patient evangelists. Not every patient that gets on this device, because they're 3, 4, 5x times better, within 3 or 4 sessions, they just get that much better, that much quicker. And it's just one of those things that just works. And so I've spent the past 3 years developing protocols for the newbie device, for onboarding it with other physical therapists. I've trained about 100 physical therapists on site in Tampa last year, but as the current situation has forced us all to evolve a little bit, we were just in the process of completing a virtual training. And I'm a big believer, and I think all of us here take great pride in giving unbelievable customer service and providing that training and that support. We've all had experiences with equipment reps, right, in the past that weren't physical therapists. They didn't own a practice, and you buy the device, and it's one and done. You never hear from the person again. You get no support. So I think from listening to everybody on this panel, we all take great pride in utilizing that good customer service. So let me just share a few like pre and post COVID stats with you. People have probably heard me talk before, but my practice over the past 2 years, after adding the newbie to my own practice, we increased our overall revenue by 74% in the very first year of onboarding it. So ROI is absolutely massive. And I've had a lot of my customers talk to me during this whole COVID crisis. We have one practice that we partner with in Los Angeles, and he just started his practice last year. And we were talking back and forth through this whole crisis, and he's been so busy even with this crisis that he had to hire another physical therapist during the crisis because he has a 3-week waiting list. Just in Tampa alone, I had Stephanie, my COO, pull my stats for the first half of this year, and based on our record year that we had last year, due in part to some of the Mega Academy stuff and the newbie device, the first 6 months of this year, even with COVID in Tampa, which is the new quote epicenter of the new cases apparently, my overall revenue is 34% higher than last year, even with COVID. And we're hearing this over and over and over again with a lot of the customers that are using the newbie device and using our product. So it's definitely a game changer. It's something that we're looking at reaching many, many more people in the coming years because of the virtual training platform that we have. And I think in the reference materials that you have information on that if anybody wants to know more about how to get the virtual training, learn how it works, why it works, how to onboard it in your practice. So that's kind of what we're focusing on right now.
Okay, good. We have a question from Cullen who is asking, what is the mix of cash pay versus CPT income with people who utilize the newbie?
Okay, so I'll just share with you, I onboarded it on my practice, and you have to understand, this is much newer than the technologies that we're talking about before this. It was only FDA cleared at the end of 2017, so I was the first PT on the planet to bring it into my practice, and I by default had to figure out how to use this, how to make it work, how to show proof of concept. My practice has always been a hybrid practice, but within the first 3 months of onboarding it in 2018, we went from $6,000 over-counter collections per month to $25,000 a month over-counter collections in cash. And we've maintained that and continued to grow ever since then. So, but with this technology, because it just works, and I apologize for not being able to get into all the ins and outs about how and why, but because it just works, I have found that doesn't matter what part of the country you're in, whether you're in upstate New York where the average net revenue per visit is $49 a visit, or if you're in Seattle where you have a straight cash-based service, or if you're in LA with a mix, every single practice that has brought this on has seen return on investment usually within 3 months or so, and it's been pretty amazing across the grand spectrum of proof of concept. From a billing standpoint, it truly is neuromuscular rehab, and so that's why our net revenue per visit went up about $20 a visit in the first year of using it, because we were appropriately using neuromuscular rehab more than Therax and Theract. And my clinic has always been a manual therapy clinic and a Therax clinic. We're not at all a modality clinic. So when you hear or you hear electrical stim, you think, oh, I don't want to turn into that shake and bake clinic that, you know, the corporate offices are, but it absolutely is a system. It's not a modality.
Okay, good. Yes, and that's what we're hearing from all of our clients as well, as a kind of a testament to that message. I do have a question from Rodney. Oh, hang on one second, Ryan. To Demi. Demi, you mentioned utilizing diagnostic testing in the practice. Is there a list of the type of tests that PTs are performing in their practices now?
Yes, the tests they are performing, and let me see if I have them in the PowerPoint. But if not, the tests we're performing are electromyography testing. And let me share that real quick. Electromyography testing, it will give you a national average of $500. Musculoskeletal ultrasound and neuroultrasound, that has a national average reimbursement of $240. And you usually combine these two in about an hour. You do an EMG and a neuro MSK, so that yields about $740 for that hour. But also we do video nystagmography, VNG, which is for patients with vestibular and balance problems, as well as evoked potential, which is an extension of the electromyography testing. That by itself, the complete spectrum of evoked potentials, has a reimbursement in the neighborhood of $600. So that's pretty much the answer to that.
Oh, Nicole, you're muted.
Sorry, my dog was barking. It's a work from home thing.
That's a good mute. That's a
It's
good
fun.
mute reason.
Okay, but I just wanted to acknowledge that Paul had asked a question. He has a cash-based practice, and he's asking how to kind of, what are some ideas to garner new business for cash-based. But before we answer that, I want to flip it over to you, Brian, because, you know, we've talked a lot about these cash-based services, but let's kind of wrap it up all together. What are some other options for people who have a PT business? Does it have to be, you know, just the 20%? Is there an option for all cash practices? What is your perspective on that?
Well, you know, there's several business models, right? And before I explain that, I just wanted to share with everybody listening that I have been a patient of all three of these services. So we would never bring somebody on our show and introduce this to you if we didn't vet it out ourselves. So like I said, we do take that phrase, the Consumer Reports of PT, dead serious. When I had my back injury before I had surgery, I went to Jason and he treated me in 4 sessions and the radiculopathy down my leg was gone. After surgery, I went to one of Demi's clinics as well as one of Mark's providers. I got treated by laser because I had some residual back pain, not radicular pain, back pain. I had laser. Literally 2 sessions, I was better. And then I went to one of Demi's clinics and I said, run the tests. I want to make sure my nerve root is not entrapped. I want to make sure I don't have any inflammation there. They did all the needles in there. They did it. They walked it through. They talked. I have like about literally that 40 pictures of myself getting these tests done from one of Demi's clinics. So I just wanted to share that with you so that you guys really do know that I actually live taste tested, if you will, these services. So please do take it serious and get the information. When you do get cash-based services like these three, and we have others, you know, nutritional therapy costs you nothing and you could be providing nutritional therapy to your patients and literally there's zero overhead, not even payroll. I want you to know that if you're going to be successful at that, you have to first examine your business model. The business model, if you remember PT school, structure dictates function. We need to look at the structure. If you can examine and evaluate properly the structure of your practice so it aligns with the vision you have for where you want to go, you'll probably quickly realize that the all-in network model is not the way to go for the long haul. The all-in network model, accepting everyone's insurance, being at the beck and call of everyone's authorizations, reauthorizations, and waiting for the phone to ring with referrals is not the way to go. It's not that I want you to throw it out entirely, but I want you to ask yourself this question. Do you know, as we sit here right now on this session, do you know for sure, down to the dollar, what is your cost per visit? I go into so many offices And the owner cannot tell me, when I add up the rent, the overhead, the marketing, the utilities, the payroll, the benefits, how much does it cost for me to deliver a visit? You literally have to know what your cost per visit is so that you can actually project out where you want to go financially, so you can support which model and how you're going to develop and how you're going to operate, because you're going to be operating with standard operating procedures. That is the future of physical therapy. Now, you could go an all cash model, go all cash, take no insurance, no Medicare, no Medicaid, no federal programs, all cash. A lot of people are winning with that and loving that too. And you could take these devices, throw them in there, go win with that. Some challenges there that you need to be aware of. You know, there's not everybody's got a high quality therapist like you. Not everyone's as skilled as these professionals are to be able to demand $150 a visit, $100 a visit, $150, $200 an eval. Now, all of a sudden, when you go away on vacation, you come back, there may not be a check waiting for you, right? And you're really kind of chained to your clinic for a lot of places. Or maybe you're not in a, fiscally economic area of the country that can demand that. Nicole's in Wisconsin, right? So Wisconsin's a beautiful state. Don't give me any hate mail here.
I don't have a cow virtual background. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I think you got a cheese barn back there somewhere. There's something going on there. But it's it depends on where you are. Fairfax, Virginia is not the same as Tulsa, Alabama, right? So it's just, they're different areas. So you have to weigh these kinds of things. What we have done is we have looked at 3 major components for you to successfully incorporate these technologies. Number 1, a 5-division organization, streaming you down to a 5-division organization that is complete with all the duties, all of the products that one has to produce within that area, all the sub-products that drive those products, and how to measure them. Because pay for performance is dead serious stuff. You have to have pay for performance. You only have 2 ways to manage in this world. You can either manage by personality. Oh, I like her. She laughs at my jokes. She buys me donuts. Great. Or I'm going to manage by performance. There's only 2 ways to manage, and that's what we've done. So number 1, you have to have a 5-division org board. Number 1. Number 2, you have to start embracing a possible shared risk model. You have to think about how you're going to put a shared risk model in and together. You're going to need to think about that. How's that going to work? How are you going to share the risks moving forward? The days of paying somebody an $80,000 salary plus another $8 to $9 grand in benefits just because they're exchanging time for money is over. I mean, I'm thinking that's dead set over. That is a real problem. So, and once you have your structure, once you have your shared risk model, 3 components for future success is number 3. And it's been proven in 1,000 studies. Those businesses that are willing to take time and money and create a learning management system, an ongoing learning management system that invests in the staff around them, always do markedly better than their competitors. Because the people it will not be a revolving door. They will not come and go. They will want to be invested in. So I think all of these guys would agree that their devices, their systems, their technologies are going to flourish and prosper in a setting that's well structured, with well-educated staff, with a shared risk model. And if you can come in and we can show you how to do that, your incorporation of these devices is exponentially going to be better for you in the long run. And you're going to look back and say, man, I had no idea it could even be this good. And this is way in excess of my expectations. So I want to just end with that these are the solutions we're talking about post-pandemically. And you know what? This pandemic, as horrible as it's been, and there's no other way to describe it, it's been horrible. There is a silver lining. And the silver lining is a lot of us stayed home and got to spend time with our wives and our husbands and our children. And we got to look at our life and say, you know what? I don't want to go back to the way life was. I don't want to go back to 60 hours a week and hustling for the insurance companies. I don't want to go back to spending 65% of my time on admin, and possibly 35%, of my time on clinical. I want to balance that better. So I want to leave you with that thought. I just would like to leave everybody with that thought and message. And that's how we work it when we get clients and we work with them, with this high energy approach of it can be done. You can do it. You just have to be willing to change your mind and get into action.
Yeah. And guys, I just want to let you know, I know that you have some questions that we didn't quite get to, and I want to wrap up with some closing thoughts from each one of our panelists and give them time to do that. So if we did not get to your question, All of the contact info can be found in the resource guide. If you download that resource guide, Matthew, if you want to put that back up on the chat so that people can access, either Demi, Mark, or Jason, or us. If there's something more specifically, I know I mentioned to one person, we do offer practice assessments. So if you have a little bit more specific issue that you're working through, we do a free practice assessment. We will take you through and look at all the issues that you might be having individually. And again, that's free of charge. So we spend an hour of our time going through that with you to talk about the options. So those are all, options that we can certainly do. Just fill out the contact us form or the form for the resource guide, and we'll be in touch with you and get you that resource guide with their contact info. Okay, so in closing, Mark, maybe you can start us off. If you can leave us with just some closing thoughts. It can be a tip, it can be advice, it can be, just something in summary that you can leave with our listeners.
Sure. And the best part, it's free. It's
Yay!
free. So, I used to manage, 14 different clinics in the Southeast in a big corporate chain. I used to have to train and coach young first, second year PTs on a very regular basis. And, the piece of advice I give the owners out there that have a young staff and they're struggling, maybe their conversion's bad or their cancellation rate's high, or you're sitting there listening to these discussions today going, there's no way that these people could sell anything. They can barely keep their schedule together. The one piece I would recommend that you ask them to do is slow down on day one, meaning take the time during that evaluation to really listen to that patient, listen to what their goals are, really take the time to do a good eval. So that it doesn't mean they have to get every single box checked and get everything figured out, but get a good solid understanding of what that patient's looking for, how you're going to help them, explain to them how you're going to do it, basically connect with that patient and not get so worried about giving them 10 exercises on day one or taking them through 13 different activities to make that valuable for day one. If you connect and can put a plan together and explain to that patient what's going on, there's a very good chance they're going to come back. And if you do a bad job of that and you do run right to the exercise regimen and start filling out a flow sheet and taking somebody around, and that patient gets a sense that you haven't connected with them or they don't know what's going on, there's a very high possibility that's the reason why their cancellation rate is going through the roof.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's good advice. Thank you, Mark. Jason,
Sure.
can you share with us?
I'm writing feverishly here, but I just want to touch base on the biggest, hang up for most physical therapists out there. I've dealt with probably hundreds of them in the past year for my travels. And with a cash-based model, their biggest hang up is scalability. Usually the person that can procure cash-based services is the most experienced, most expensive business owner. They've been around the longest, and they have a hard time hiring other physical therapists that could bring in that cash. With technology such as the Newbie, and now we're doing it virtually with a virtual CEU program, I could train any physical therapist, doesn't matter the level of experience, whether they're a wizard manual therapist already, if they're a new grad, they will have the same skill set and they will literally turn into clinical experts within just this training, learning how to use this technology as an adjunct to what they already do. And so we eliminate all of that by providing the training, providing the support, and just by adding this device to their practice. You could hire as a practice owner a new grad because they have the right personality, the right mindset, the right ethos for your company, and you will be able to charge cash-based services with that therapist because they'll be a clinical expert by using technology to enhance their skills, not take away from their skills.
Perfect. Thank you. Good advice, Jason. Demi?
Yeah, for me, I'll answer the question, when is the right time to do something new for your practice? So the time is now. And the time is now because if you do not do it, guess what? Somebody else will do it. Your neighbor will do it. The competitor will do it down the street, okay? So act now and get to the next level for your business. From the side of HADS, what we have done to help people with this COVID situation is we have a COVID financial program where you can join organization and become the exclusive person in your area to have a HADS program at a fraction of the price that we were offering before. So that's what we can do.
That's
Very
very
good.
generous. That's
Thank
very
you.
good.
Thank you
That's
for
very
sharing.
generous.
Now,
Thank you.
Brian, before I get to you, I want to add my little closing thought. Not that I think you're going to just start talking or anything.
I'm not. I'm
but
totally
I just,
following you.
I just want to echo what Mark, you had said earlier about slowing down. And I think just like we teach or train a physical therapist to slow down and really listen, I think as an owner, you can do the same thing with your practice. You know, we've had time to really evaluate, you know, who our personnel are, what our systems are, and really look at our environment that's, you know, has been ever changing in the last 4 or 5 months that we've been going through this. And we've had to make some serious decisions and adjustments to the game plan. So I think that now is the time, Deanie, like you had said, to really look at your practice and evaluate, you know, do I want to continue as I have been doing, or is it time now to make those changes? And I think, you know, we've all have said this, that now absolutely is the time. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Brian.
Yeah, my last words are this. You know, we take care of our practice owners. We must do 8 to 10 startups a year. We've never had a startup fail going all the way back to 2010. And I think the largest element of why we're successful with startups is because we listen. We don't work with anybody that doesn't do a practice assessment first. You wouldn't treat a patient until you did a thorough evaluation, made a problem and solution list, which is your plan of care, and set timelines on it. Every single one of these professionals on here have technology that is going to work best in the practices that work like that actually care for their patients, are patient care advocates. So if you're a patient care advocate, even post-pandemically, let's just acknowledge this. There's a lot of patients out there and a lot of families out there that are financially hurting. There's a lot of people out there that have certain fears that are running their life right now and weighing in on their decisions. We can't afford to be one of them. We have to be the stabilizing voice in our community to say, you still have the same pain and discomfort. You still have the same pain and dysfunctional issues that you had prior. You have to improve your health. You have to do what's in the best interest for you. Whatever's pro-survival for you, we are here to harness it and provide it for you. Of course, you can work on finances with people. We do it all the time. We get people in on our Startup Accelerator program. For the cost of 3 patients, we will train you on everything you need to know for the first 2 years of your existence in practice. I don't want to keep talking about what we do and how we do it because it's all about these guys. It's all about the services that we're providing to you. If you have other things and other places that are going to provide that kind of benefit to you and your staff and your patients, you should be pursuing that as well. We're just one outlet trying to help you get what you need to provide the greatest help to the greatest number of people. There's only 2 reasons why you went to PT school. Number 1, help as many people as humanly possible through the years that you hold a license. And number 2, provide the best care you can with each and every engagement. Those are the only 2 reasons why I can think of why you went to PT school, and every single person on the screen is trying to help you to advance that. And that's my parting words. Over to Nicole. Yes. Great show, yes. Nicole.
I just wanted to thank each and every one of you panelists for all you've contributed today. We really, really, really appreciate your time and your effort that you put into the resource guide as well. So I thank you from the bottom of our hearts. I think you've done a great job in sharing your experiences and your knowledge. So thank you. And everybody else, thank you for joining us. We're planning to host another Zoom, what do we call it?
Zoomcast.
Next month. So stay tuned. We'll let you know what that's all about. Again, we're trying to stay as relevant as possible. So, you know, in this ever-changing environment, we may be kind of developing that over the course of the next month. So thank you all for your time and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Perfect.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye now.